Riftbound is not an easy game, and as someone who's played multiple TCGs competitively, I can agree. Making mistakes in Riftbound is hard to recognize. Here are 5 mistakes every new Riftbound player makes and how you can fix them. Misusing actions and reactions. There's a big difference between actions and reactions. Actions are pretty much sorceries or normal spells. There's just an additional window in a turn when to use them, even in your opponent's turn. Reactions, however, are much more powerful, as you can react to anything that starts a chain. Compare reactions to instants and trap cards. Reactions are powerful, and there are often key moments where a reaction can just change the outcome of a game. Use them sparingly and thoughtfully. Sometimes using your action or reactions during the action phase will reveal more information. Don't be afraid to use your spells during the action phase to take advantage of this. Here is an example. You want to trade a Hextech Ray and a Watchful Sentry for a Kiana. You still have a Stupefy in your hand as well, and you also got a couple of Pouty Poros all ready to attack. You attack with Watchful Sentry, and in Showdown you use Hextech Ray to deal 3 damage to Kiana. Your opponent responds with Discipline, boosting Kiana's might by 2. The result is Kiana still lives and you've wasted your Hextech Ray and your Watchful Sentry. Now imagine you used Hextech Ray preemptively, in action phase. If your opponent reacts with a Discipline immediately, you can change up your attacks. If your opponent does not respond with Discipline, you can go to Showdown, attacking with your Watchful Sentry, and if they decide to pump their Kiana, you can then react with your Stupefy. Here, we changed a losing Showdown into a winning Showdown, just by changing how we used our action and reaction. Understanding how actions and reactions properly interact will win you showdowns and even games that are otherwise not winnable. Next up are sequencing errors. Riftbound is a card game with showdowns that could happen anytime in a turn and also multiple times in a turn. This adds to the layer of sequencing mistakes one can make in a game. Moving and conquering a battlefield before you play your units gives you more options, and if you don't show your information before your opponent needs to make his decisions on interaction, he is also more likely to make mistakes. Always think through your entire turn before you commit to any movement or any play. Think about 3 things specifically. A. Are you going to force a showdown? B. Are you going to play a unit? And C. Are you going to hold runes for actions or reactions? For example, if you play Lecturing Yordle and draw a card, you can see what you draw. Then, you can decide if you want to use Darius Trifarian. And yes, Darius Trifarian will trigger if he is the second card you play that turn. In this case, seeing what you draw gives you more information so you can make the better decision. You can either play Darius Trifarian or perhaps the Kaiser Survivor that you just drew off the Yordle. The next mistake we're going to discuss is the Mulligan. And the Mulligan is a part of every game, so it could go wrong every single game. Simultaneously, it's a really hard mistake to fix, because it requires great understanding of not only your matchup, but also your own deck. At the start of the game, you already know 2 things: whether you're going first or second, and what deck your opponent is playing. When you decide which cards to keep during your Mulligan, you should not only look at your curve, but also visualize how the game might go. For example, your hand contains 2 Pouty Poros, a Watchful Sentry, and a Darius Trifarian. That seems like a great hand, but if you're going second against Set, whose units are usually stronger than yours in the early game, and that is going to revive and recall their dying units, this might not be the ideal opener. Instead, you might want to mulligan away 1 or 2 of your 2 drops to try to find removal spells, especially for the mid game. The 4th mistake we will discuss is role recognition. In every game, your role is either the aggressor or the defender, and this can change mid-match. Your role depends on your deck, your opponent, your hand, and your board control. If you're the aggressor, you want early pressure, you want to force trades, you want to score a lot before your opponent can stabilize, and you often want to spend resources early to maintain your tempo lead. If you're the defender, your job instead is to preserve units and make sure your opponent doesn't score too much. You are looking to stabilize in the mid game and take over with stronger late game cards. Your trades early can't be inefficient, as this will lead to a position you cannot get back from. When you correctly identify your role, the game becomes much clearer. You can start working towards your win condition. You stop forcing plays, you stop taking unnecessary fights, and you start making decisions that actually support your win condition. Lastly, I want to talk about holding a battlefield. This is unique to Riftbound and needs some getting used to, even if you are experienced in other TCGs. To start things off, it's important to realize when your opponent scores, this does not hinder your own game. You're still the same amount of points away from winning the game, so if it improves your own game state, you are allowed to let your opponent score points. If your opponent has much larger units than yours, it makes sense to just retreat from the battlefield and stay safe in the base. Otherwise, they're going to conquer the battlefield and you will still lose your units. Many people, however, don't realize that even when you are in a stronger position, it is often smarter to just retreat from the battlefield. Retreating from a battlefield means you have your units ready for an attack in a later turn. Riftbound is a game of information, and a defending player that is holding a battlefield has already revealed one important piece of information: what the defending units will be at this battlefield. An attacking player can then use this information to choose how and whether they will attack with their units. Even in a winning position, this attacker's advantage can be detrimental in losing a showdown and consequently losing a winning game. Instead of putting yourself in this defender's position, you can retreat your units safely to base and start preparing for an attacker's position in a later turn again. So, should you always retreat when given the opportunity? No. It depends on a lot of factors, mostly the board state. There are also certain battlefields that trigger when you hold, so it might be worth the risk. The key is recognizing that retreating is not surrendering a point, it's usually setting up for future turns. And with that, we've gone over 5 mistakes Riftbound players make. This is my first video, so I'll also include a short introduction here at the end. My name is Junhee. I am a competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic the Gathering player from the Netherlands. I've done well at both card games in multiple tournaments. Now I'm looking to translate my knowledge from these games into this new card game called Riftbound. It makes sense because I've played a lot of League of Legends and I've loved card games since I was about 8 years old. So yeah, I'll be making more Riftbound content in the future as well. So be on the lookout. I've also founded a TCG store in the Netherlands. It's called Yugi Wang and I'm still affiliated with them. So if you want to play Nexus Knights or just buy Riftbound singles, products, whatever it is, check out the link below. Lastly, if you want to hang out with me or others and talk about anything related to Riftbound, join my Discord with the link in the description. This is June and thanks for watching.